touch briefly on something that helps to make people look more youthful. And one of the things I talked about was during a time period where I was showing a picture where I was 38, and I feel that I look a lot more youthful in many aspects than I do now at 58. And I mentioned how I was in management, working in IT, had two, relatively small children, and it just wasn't the best time of my life. And so it looked on the surface like it was the best time of my life because I was making decent money, and for the most part I enjoyed my job, but trying to combine it with being married, with having small children, and also with having a large house that I didn't really have time to clean or an inclination to clean. It was just very overwhelming. And a family member mentioned at that time, she said, "Wow, you guys have arrived." And I was like thinking, arrived where? It was a wonderful house that I loved on a beautiful lot and everything, but I didn't have any time to work in the yard. I barely had time to enjoy my lovely children, and I remember always rushing. And okay, come on, guys, let's get dinner. Okay, let's look at your work. All right, let's take a shower, or bath. And then maybe like I'd watch a show with them or read them a story or something, and it was like put them in the bed. And then after that, I'd have to do work on my laptop. I thought at first a laptop that they give you to take home was a good thing. But then I realized very quickly that a laptop was just a way to get you to work when you were sick, to get you to work when your kids were sick, and also to get you to work at night when you should be doing things that you might want to do things with your spouse, do things, just to chill and to rejuvenate for the next day. But instead, what did I do? A lot of times I was up on my laptop until like maybe 2 a.m, looking at emails, trying to get ahead of the game. So when my director asked me questions about different things, I would appear to be, up to speed on things, or even halfway interested in a lot of things I clearly wasn't interested in. So long story short, I did some soul searching, and I realized that the direction that my life was going in wasn't the path that I wanted. And what helped facilitate that decision was the fact that I had some experiences with heart palpitations at that time, and I was about 10 pounds heavier than I am now. I was headed towards 40, and things weren't progressing the way that I wanted them to. Like my marriage could have been better, in my opinion. We just didn't really have time to talk or to hang out. It was just always something to do. And at that point, I really did understand how people could get divorced, or how they wind up, doing goofy stuff that they have no business doing, because you just don't have a moment to breathe, to chill, just to be. And so I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. And it's funny, one of my relatives was a neighbor in the neighborhood where we live, and they kept saying they couldn't understand why we left our house. And when I say left, I mean sold. I told my husband, I said, if this house ties me to that job, then I don't want this house anymore. And so after, some soul searching and talking about it, he agreed to sell it. And I said, how about we just move back to the rental property that I used to love, where we could walk to the pool, we can walk to the basketball courts, the kids, I could spend time with them. I think my youngest son was going to kindergarten, and I said I could spend time with him, teach him to read. And it was just like a moment just to breathe, like a woosah moment. And so that's exactly what we agreed to do. It was one of the best decisions that we ever made, because I did teach my son to read. They learned how to swim. I got to spend a lot of time with them. So what wound up happening, I was able to capitalize on something. I worked in telecom, however you want to pronounce it. And they were laying off some people. They let go of some contractors that were on my team. I think I was managing about 13 people at the time. And so they started letting go of other people, contractors and some employees. And I asked my director, can I volunteer? If I did, how much money would I get? And I found out, the wonderful money that I would get just for volunteering to leave. And who knew that I still qualified for unemployment during that time. So that led me to take 3 years off from working. And I stayed home with my kids. I lost 10 pounds. I got things, healthier. The heart palpitations went away. My husband and I started talking more and, diagnose things that could have been better, and we were able to fix them. And so I spent quality time with my children, took a moment for me, and that taught me a valuable lesson that I guess it is valuable lessons, but a valuable lesson in that if your life isn't going in the direction that you want it to go, you have the power to make changes. It's not like anything is set in stone. The things that are most important will stay there. The variable or optional items, those can go. Like the job, that wasn't a required. I needed a job, and I had to find provision, that would contribute to my family's bottom line. But I didn't have to stay in that huge house on that huge lot that I didn't get a chance to enjoy. What was most important to me were my children, my marriage, my sanity, my health, just heart palpitation. That's never a good thing. And so it was stress. It wound up being stress. I was slightly anemic. I wasn't eating the best. Just a life change to a smaller place, a downsize. That's not a bad thing if you know why you're doing it. And I knew why I was doing it, and I think it was one of the best decisions that I ever made. And I wound up going back to work later, before the window closed in my industry. But I had 3 years that I was able to hang out with my kids, and best decision ever. And I think it contributed to me aging a lot better than I would have if I stayed at that hectic job, working long hours. And, there was talk of me, being even recommended for senior management. And at first that sounded exciting, but then I thought about it. I'm like, my kids are little. I want to hang out with them. I didn't know if I wanted to have a third baby or not. I wasn't sure, but I needed to get a handle on my life. Or as Tamar Braxton used to say, get your life, girl, get your life. I got my life. And if you're in a situation now where you feel that your life has got you and you're not getting it, maybe a life change is required. It can happen. You have to plan it. Figure out the best course of action. You don't want to do anything hasty, and we didn't do anything hasty. I did have to get the buy-in from my husband. We did sell that house, and we did, have a contingency plan. We kicked a tenant out and moved back to a rental property, to a neighborhood that I didn't want to leave in the first place. My husband was the one who said, we should buy a single family. We should move, and I didn't really want to leave the neighborhood that I loved so much, but we did. And so we both got on the same page, took a moment to breathe. Best thing I ever did. So if you need to make a mental health move, then think about this story and use it as, something that might be food for thought. Another thing, if you're in a situation right now that's too difficult for you, a couple of times I mentioned my strategy when things are too difficult for me. I pray, I turn them over to God, because I can't, solve a lot of problems that are too big for me. And I say, in the name of Jesus, all over it. Where I learned that lesson was back at Clemson University, probably like in maybe 1985 or something. The financial aid office, they told me that I'd have to go home at the end of the week if I didn't come up with $1,900. I didn't know how I was going to get $1,900. I had spent all of the money from my summer internship on books. Back then, books were expensive. I had spent maybe at least $200 on the books. I think by that point, I had maybe less than $10 left. And so I went to the financial aid office, did all I could do, talked to everybody on campus that might be able to offer any assistance. And you know what I did? I took the last of my money and I went to a place that was called the Clemson House at the time. I bought a cheeseburger, some tater tots, and I went home and I got in the bed. And I watched an episode of All My Children, And then I went to sleep. And I just said, Lord, you need to help. I have no idea what to do. It's just too great for me. And so that's my shut off mechanism. I tend to fall asleep after I've had that thought. This is too much for me. I can't do it. I go to sleep. And so that's what I did after eating that hamburger and the tater tots. And then when I woke up, I felt refreshed and renewed. And something told me, go back over to the financial aid office and talk to them. And I wound up getting some sort of emergency loan that they had. There was a deferment they gave me until the financial aid, was cleared. And I was able to stay, and I never got sent home, even though I had gotten those notifications a number of times that they were going to send me home. And no one ever sent me home, but I went to sleep. I didn't fret. I didn't worry. I was worried initially, but after a while, I was like, I've done all I can do. I got to turn it over to the one who can make some things happen. So maybe you're in a situation like that. Instead of staying up sleepless nights, worried, stressing, when it gets to the point that you've done all that you can do, you got to do all that you can do first. But after that point, turn it over to whoever you believe in. I know everybody doesn't believe in Christ like I do, but if you believe in, another deity or God that you pray to, you need to pray. And you know who I believe in, but only you know who you can believe in. And I don't, want to force anything on you, but I'm saying that's what I did. And it's helped me just beyond what I could ever tell you. So those are the two things that helped me learn lessons to preserve my mental well-being and to help me not stress and to age my face more than it's already aged. So hopefully that helps you guys. And if you have any questions about that, I tried to give you the abbreviated version of my story, but hopefully you get the picture and that it's never too late to turn the ship around and to do what you want to do. Better late than never. But anyway, hopefully that helps. Talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.